What's going on, guys? In this video, I got my friend and my martial arts brother here, Crew Daniel. He is the owner of Six Blades. Is it just Six Blades or Six Blades like Muay Thai? Or
Six Blades downtown.
Six Blades downtown. We're both here in Colorado, so he just opened a new school. Crew Daniel's had multiple schools in different parts of the United States. He's very experienced. So I'm very excited to kind of have him in this video. And he actually reached out to me because he wanted to share some knowledge as far as like, the question he had asked me is, you know, Rad, if you were gonna tell someone, what would you do different if you started training right now? And I really, you know, of course that crosses my mind, but I didn't think to really talk about that in a video. But I think this being the beginning of the new year, I think that's a great topic. So Crew Daniel, like real quick, like just gloss over your background and then let's answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be on this channel and I'm happy to share some of my wisdom. And I've been doing martial arts for a little over 15 years. I've competed professionally. I'm a former world champion, amateur. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and have other certifications. But Muay Thai is my main practice and my main sport, martial art that I love to teach as well. So I'm happy to share a little bit information and, you know, something that will help you, because I wish I had this when I was coming up.
Yes, on that subject, when we started, like there wasn't information. I remember when I did my first BJJ tournament, I actually read a blog because there was no videos. There was no like, oh, YouTube video. I was so nervous about it. Somebody posted a blog about how to prepare for a tournament and it was great information. It was like, you might be there all day, pack a snack, you know, stuff like that. And I was grateful to have that. Mm-hmm. Now, oh my gosh, like we were just talking about before we started filming, there's so much information out there. So what I always say, guys, be careful what you consume though. So excited to have you on in this video because again, the wealth of knowledge that you carry with you. You've been doing it way longer than me, I think. Mid 2000s, you think? No, you. Yeah,
15 years.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I meant 14 years. Okay, so about the same, but you've long path, and he's also a crewfessor, right? Crew, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so that's awesome. So this is a great opportunity to really dig into like, again, the knowledge of two people who've been in the game for a long time. Now that said, when I started, it was just, I was a fan, right? And I was looking for something for my son actually. He was going through puberty and he was lashing out, you know, that angst. And he had done sports, but it wasn't really sticking. And I thought, martial arts, right? That's, you know, I come up in the 80s, like that's what you do, you stick your kid in martial arts. Fortunately, Bobby Lashley had opened an American Top Team in our city. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and take him to this school. And I signed up for jiu-jitsu, and then they were telling me, oh, you should do it too. And I was like, no, I'm just here to watch. So, you know, I'm the parent that's dropping him off. Yeah. But as I'm there, like, the guys keep talking to me, different coaches, the Muay Thai coach, and then the jiu-jitsu, just try a class, you should try it. And I was like, you know, I really want to, but then I'm like nervous, right? But then I finally did. And so it went about just kind of jumping in, and my background started more in MMA. But it was just trying all the classes, going in and doing it. Did I have external information? Not really. You know, like I said, you read a blog or something, or maybe you found something on social media that could help you. But then you kind of just went in, it was like that old, not like the Gracie Garage era, but like that old era where you just go in and you're just kind of like, you're going through it with those guys, and the instructors, they're good, not all great. Some of them push a little harder than others. You're kind of just, you know, you're growing through like the angst, the aggression and the hardship of it, right? And if you could stick it out, if you could stay with it, you're kind of growing that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I met Master Tran, and then I saw he was still doing it of the more traditional like martial arts school way.
Right.
And so I kind of shifted towards that. And then my new professor, Professor Henry Matamoros, my professor who gave me my black belt, he was like telling me, because he was running all the MMA gyms, like Jeff Curran's gym and all the programs and stuff. He was deep into that, and he was just kind of like, Rad, that's the fight gym thing is not a thing that's gonna last.
Right.
Like you gotta go back to like martial arts. And so that's kind of how I shifted. So if I was to do it different, all that like, you know, going in hard, I was, you know, you're young. I mean, I wasn't that young. I was like 30 because life. And then like, so I started later than most, but you're still kind of like, you know, you want to prove it. So you want to get in there and you want to say, okay, I can keep up with these guys. So it kind of can push you and inspire. And I always, you know, again, I came up in the 80s, like that was the era, no one was taking care of you when we were doing sports in high school. It's like your coaches are pushing us around, like it's physical, you know, so that's how I was coached. I'm used to that. I didn't know there was more compassionate way and
Right.
patient way of doing it.
Right.
So I guess maybe I would look for something, I'd have the options nowadays to seek culture, you know, a better culture, where like a culture that maybe fit what works for me as far as how to learn.
Absolutely.
Right? Or even just now, man, there's so many schools now. I remember when I started, there was 4 black belts total in Colorado. That's it, 4 jiu-jitsu black. I mean, gosh, who knows now, you know? So I think you could just be a little more selective, right? And look for what really fits fits you. And we just didn't have those options, right?
Right.
I think number 2, and I'll end with this as far as recovery, right? Now it's become more important as I'm in my 40s, because I went through a phase, crew, like the last 2 years. I thought my body was just falling apart, and I was doing everything to hold it together. And I realized that I just wasn't putting enough recovery work into it. Now my recovery, and that's a lot of the videos I do now on the channel, my recovery is the same amount of time as my training almost. What I have to put into stretching and rolling and holding yoga poses and stuff like that, just to keep my back able to like roll. So had I known, right, and regardless of my age, 20s, because I have 20-year-olds who are so stiff from like a lifetime of athletics, and now they work in construction or whatever, and they're like 22, but they can't, like their hip is turned a certain way, and like, oh, I can't even, and they're like, sir, what do I do? My leg's hurting, and I just so happen to know some stretches, you know? And so it doesn't matter the age, but you're made of, I always say this, you're made of rubber and dreams at that age. You could bounce back like, and you know, like push through things, and you don't know that the damage you're doing, and it's gonna like shut you down 5-10 years down the line. So I would do the recovery thing. I would wish, but I'd hope I'd find someone who could guide me in that. Or, you know, YouTube, some information where it's like, hey, take this stuff serious and make sure you're doing this on the side as well, right? So that's kind of my long way of explaining. Those are the things I would probably do different, but it would be because I have those options in this current state where Muay Thai has gotten so big, finally, in the West. And Jiu-Jitsu is, gosh, man. You remember when you started. I know you do. And 15 years ago, and then now, I mean, there's like Jiu-Jitsu everywhere, right? It's kind of crazy. It's crazy to think of.
No, I mean, like to piggyback on what you said, I think because it's changed from generations, you're very fortunate to have a lot of options and opportunities. So if I were to do it differently, I would have shopped around. Even though that back in our day, we had limited access to certain training areas, I feel like I was at one place a little longer than I should have been because there's conveniency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's okay to have conveniency, but I knew that there was another place that had the culture, had the goals, had the things that I feel like it was organic to my heart. And if I were to just spend a little more time on just shopping around, I would have found this place a little sooner. But you obviously want to go back and be like, oh, I wish things were different. I think if I was restarting it now, I'll probably let me shop around, and then you'll find a culture that fits you best and what your goals are. And ideally, when you're starting, you don't really have a goal, but you know that this is pulling you.
There's
an interest to it, and you want to fuel it. And instead of just going in blindly, just shop around. Take a minute back, just step back a little bit, and be like, cool, this is ideally where I want to go. That's one way. And to piggyback on the recovery, I really feel like if I were to do it again, either fighting, training, coaching, is my nutrition.
Good one.
I think that's, and even if you're just a martial arts athlete, you're not a competitor, I think that's something you can invest in.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Just for life.
Just for life, exactly.
Just to live, man. Just be smart. Just do a little research.
I remember cutting weight, and I remember I had no idea how to cut down correctly. So I thought hot dog and water was the best nutritional thing to slim me down. So I was having the hot dog, and my brain was thinking oh, there's meat in the hot dog.
Yeah,
right?
So there's protein,
exactly.
A little
So I was
carbs.
let me do that, and then cutting weight and all this other stuff. And I'm having wheat bread, so I must be doing fine.
Oh God, I remember the complex carb era when I was and I was like, what's going on with my body? It's it's phytic acid. I'm getting inflamed. What?
Right.
Oh, and then I got to cut carb. Yeah, man. Just and you go through that. You fought a lot of fights, so you had to try different things because I'm sure your body got used to the hot dog, and then it didn't work the next time, right? So I remember the first time I cut 20 pounds in one day. I was like, oh, could do this. And the next time I thought I was going to pull it off, and I couldn't. So I'm weighing in there like naked. I'm like, yo, why didn't this work? It was, oh, your body can't pull that off every time. So yeah, but now to your point, some of my fighters, they got like on this nutrition thing, and now they're just walking around, because I just told them last year when we had the opportunity to train with Adriano Moraes, and the whole 6 weeks he was training here, I was like, how's your weight? He's like, 5 pounds, brother. I feel great. And he was just eating and just training, and no stress about the weight. He just, so I said, guys, live that way. Stay within 5 pounds. Find a way that you can eat and live, and just live within 5 pounds of your weight class, and save yourself all that ridiculousness.
Yeah, and then like, eventually, as a fighter, that everything runs its course. Yeah. And so hopefully you built some good habits and relationship with your food. I know for me, myself, when I got into the martial arts, it's because I was very overweight. I was bullied. I didn't speak English. So I had a lot of like these big checkpoints to get bullied and get picked on. And when I found martial arts, started training, obviously the weight and my body composition, because of my age, I was just getting shrinking. Yeah. And which is great, but then as I was eating like crap. Yeah, you think you're gonna get away with that forever. Right, so I was fluctuating from like 180 to 145, 180 to 155, 190. I especially remember doing a grappler's quest in New Jersey, and I did like the 200-pound division. Oh my, because I can't even imagine that. I bloomed up so bad because I had no idea what to eat. And so, the things that I focus on is, if I really advise to a lot of people, is like, first one, shop around, find a culture that fits you well. You might not know what you want, but I think most of the time you have a heart, you have a core feeling like, yeah, this is the spot for me. And when you find it, that's beautiful, because that's where everyone's going to take care of you, they're going to lead you. And then my second one is invest in just learning about more nutrition. If you have a friend who's a personal trainer or a friend who's a dietitian, take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner. Pick their brain. Pick their brain, exactly, right? If you go online, get some data. But those things really go further out in your career. If you want to make this a fight career, if you want to make it a coaching career, if you want to just become a lifelong martial artist, I feel like those two things really, really go far. Yeah, how could that not help? I mean, in life, like, get your nutrition under control. Like, it's fuel. That's something I had to come to terms with. I always got away. My 20s, I'm like, oh man, I eat whatever I want, stay fit. Basically, it was something I heard someone say to one of those people who were struggling with obesity and had all these conditions, and they were like, you have to look at food as fuel. You have to eat to live, not live to eat, right? And that stuck with me. I was like, okay, that's a good one. So I'm glad you brought up nutrition, because even when we're in like fight camps, my fighters, they'll shift something a little bit, and they're like, oh my God, I feel so good this week, or sir, I feel so depleted, right? And just pull fighters out, like just regular people who train, because we train hard regardless. I'm not a fight gym, like I've told you, like this is a martial arts school, but I train everyone like fighters, because that's the experience of it. Yeah, you don't have to go compete, but you're passionate about it, and the way to go about it is to really experience it fully. And so we train at full speed. So it's hard for this regular people who have 9 to 5 come in here and train at that speed. They need the right fuel too. So I like how you touched on that, like just being a lifelong martial artist. I mean, if you do the right things, that's why I love it. It's something you can do forever. And we're never going to stop growing, because you don't just learn martial arts like, oh, we got black belts in jiu-jitsu, done. Oh, now I'm going to go learn how to play the saxophone, right? No, that's not it. It's like, you got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Okay, now you're on. I remember when I got my black belt, it was like this whole new level of like knowledge. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like starting over in a weird kind of way, right? Right. As an instructor now, as a leader. Right. And then like just having to open my mind and trying to call back to everything I've been taught, but gain new skills. Always knowing you have to be a student first, right? But I say that you don't just get the skill like, oh, now I have this amazing roundhouse. I have it forever. Now I could just go learn how to box. No, you start boxing and then your roundhouse starts to look like trash. And now you're like, oh man, I've been boxing too much. Oh, I gotta stretch and start doing some roundhouse kicks. And then, so your skills are always kind of like this. Yeah. And you never just peak, right? You can peak for a fight, you can, but you never peak. Your skills, but even then
one of your skills is over the other, right? Like my footwork's on fire for this fight, or my footwork's stalled, but I was working on power in this camp, so I've got, don't let me land this too. So it's like, so I tell people that's why we can do it forever, because you're never gonna just be there and stay.
It never ends really.
No.
And I think like as you're progressing, like even if it's small progressions, it's like still going like this.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so like even like the only way to not get better is just quit.
Yeah.
Or just doing it for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
So I feel like if you're just like you're influxing and you find the temperance in your martial arts journey, you're still getting better. And quite oftentimes, as you continue to get better, you see things differently.
Absolutely.
And then your perspectives change, your values change, and having a relationship with your martial arts journey is important to have. I believe like after a year, I usually ask my students like, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
Right. And some of them want to go either coach, or they want to become a fighter, or they want to be they love the art so much they just want to keep training.
Just keep training, yeah.
And I'm like, cool. Well, you know where you're at.
Yeah.
But things change.
Absolutely. So I tell people, like, it used to be the end of every YouTube video just said a lettering, just said, just train. It became my motto after because, like, when isolation happened, it was like, man, people were shattered all over the place, and their passions changed, shifted. Things got weird, and with my students, as far as like when they came out of it, where their minds were as far as what they wanted out of it, right? Or if they even wanted to continue.
Right.
And so they didn't really know. I was kind of confused, because for me it was very simple. I was so excited to get back to it, right? And I never stopped, right? But for them to be so confused was confusing me, because then I just started saying this to them all the time: just train. Like, just train. Like, if you love training, then the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, just why when people come in and they want to compete, I said, give me a year. A year? I was like, yeah, I'm not one of those, in 3 months you can go fight MMA. It's like, no, give me a year, because you need to learn the fundamentals, number one.
Right.
You need to fall in love with training. You need to learn to be consistent.
Right.
Then a fight camp's easy, because you're already doing something you love. You don't dread coming in to do it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I say just train. If you, in a year, you might be like, because people have done it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to compete. And then like they're still training here, but it's like 2 times a week. And they're like, no, sir, I'll just come to class, because they lost that whole interest, because then they see what it takes. And they still like doing it, but then other people, life took them in a different direction. Right? So
they
I'm
thought
like,
they will never compete.
Yeah.
Never competing.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, just train and fall in love with training. If you don't love training, I don't believe that the other things become option. We have friends, some of my fighters, they have friends who, like, I'm doing it for money. I'm like, what do you mean? There's no money in amateur. Like, that's silly, right?
Wrong reasons, right?
Yeah, and I'm just like, that's not even, and they don't train as hard, and my students will go help them out, and they're like, sir, I don't understand their training. I'm like, that's them, right? You do what you do. So then we've adopted the whole, I say that we are martial artists who fight. I was like, don't refer to yourself as fighter. And I got that from Crew Pat, and Crew Pat.
Crew Pat.
And he was saying that. He said, gotta stop saying fighter, because that creates this certain, aggression and ego. He was like, martial artist. And I was like, and I was already in that mindset from Master Tran, and I was like, you know what, yeah. And then Professor Henry, so everyone that I respect is saying the same thing.
Right.
So, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And to your point, the way you run your school, the way I run my school, culture. You come in, if I'm too traditional, like we're bowing at the beginning class, we're bowing at the end, you gotta say yes, sir. If that's not your vibe, then it's not your culture.
Yeah.
And then we don't really need that here, because I don't want you reeling against our culture every time you're here. That doesn't really make sense. If you want that more fight gym, locker room type place, I promise you it's out there.
Yeah.
I'll end with that. I think that those 3 things, right? So look for the culture that fits your needs, right? And again, in the beginning, you probably don't know what you need. So it's okay if you end up bouncing around. Like, don't bounce around too much, and don't be petty in the sense that you leave a place over something small, because if you don't understand, like maybe you got a hard roll, and it's getting in your emotions, because that is going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
give yourself like 10 weeks.
Yeah, really
reasonable.
Ride things out. Like, deal with the emotions of learning this stuff, because listen, there will be emotions, man. It's just inevitable. This is hard stuff. This is not easy stuff to learn or do, but that's what makes it so awesome to attempt to conquer. You'll never conquer it, and that's the other part that's awesome, because you can keep doing it forever, just trying to be better at it each time, right? Over and over and over. And if you love doing it, then it never becomes a problem. You just look forward to doing it. So culture, right? And then nutrition, huge. Nutrition is huge, paramount. That's a very good one, Crew. And then recovery. So that's our advice. I mean, There could be, I'm sure there's other things, but where we are and what we've experienced, I like that. I think those three are key. I think those are huge. Did you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I think it's, you know, right now I'm 37 and everyone's body is different, but I found that, you know, those points that I put these points out 5 years ago and it's really hit on a lot of people. So it's helped them. And so I'm just glad to share it with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.